Example 1 for completing the square. In example 1, typically you're given an equation that looks like this. It might be like, we'll start off easy. We'll go x squared plus 4x minus 2 equals 0. And you want this to be a perfect square. And so what we're going to do, we're going to look at those first two terms. We're going to look at the x squared plus 4x, and we're going to treat that like that's going to be our perfect square. We have to complete a value here. I like to do this with brackets. I'm going to kick the minus 2 out, equals 0. And what I mean by completing the square is you have to ask yourself, what would make this a perfect square here? And from our introduction, I showed that the middle term is always the product of your first and last term in your parentheses doubled. And so if this is the expanded form, what I want to do is cut this thing in half, the second term here. And so half of 4 is 2. I always write it up there because I'm stupid and I forget things. And so I have this 2 up here. I have to ask myself, if I square 2, what do I get? And that would be 4. So I'm going to add a 4 here. That makes this a perfect square in the brackets. Well, you can't just go around adding and subtracting numbers. So if I add 4 to this equation, I need to balance it by subtracting 4. And you can do that from the same side here. So this is a minus 4. And so then we want to factor this back down into a set of parentheses. As I factor this down, I recognize that x times itself gives me x squared. So this would break down into x. And then just like we did before, the 4, what times itself produces 4? A positive or a negative 2. Because the middle term is positive, I'm going to go with the positive 2. So if you're not seeing what I'm talking about here, if I were to expand this, I square the first term, I get x squared. I square the last term, I get 4. And this product, 2 times x, doubled, gives me that 4x. And then I simplify what I have here, which would be a minus 6 equals 0. Oftentimes we call this an HK form. What I'm going to go to next is I'm going to show you what we can do with this after you get very comfortable with completing the square. Completing the square is used for all higher level math, and we do all our conics with it. We can do graphing with it. And this is an HK form, as I mentioned a second ago. It really finds the vertex to a parabola, so you can graph it quicker. And there will be other characteristics we'll talk about in a later lesson. Our focus in this lesson is that you understand how to complete the square. So we'll do several examples of this.